Hey, everybody, welcome to the Freedom Nation podcast and a special episode of the Potapalooza featured podcaster. I'm in the Potapalooza today, interviewing a ton of folks. And today we're going to interview Kristina and Herb. They are entrepreneurs and they are also folks that really focus on the world of homeschooling and how that you can really integrate that in with your kids. So guys, welcome to the show today.
Thank you so much for having us. We're glad we're here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you so very
We're
much.
so glad to have you on. I'm really interested in this topic. One of my kind of silent passions and now less silent passions has been about the situation with education in this country and the challenges, both not only of getting kids through the first 12 years, but the next few years, and trying to do that economically and trying to do that without going massively into debt. So I really am excited to talk to y'all today. So why don't we get started with your story? How did you get to where you're at today?
Thank you. Well, I am a teacher of 27 years. I was in the public school system for 27 years. 25 of those years was in a traditional classroom. And the last 2 years, I was in an online school for my school district. So these are kids who were there all the time by choice because of certain situations, right?
Okay.
And through that career, I love teaching. I love my kids. I love my families. But unfortunately, like you were alluding to, our system is broken. It's not doing what our families need and what our children need. And I realized that as a teacher, I couldn't reach those parents anymore like I needed to. So I stepped away from that. And I chose to now be in the trenches with the parents, coaching, helping, making sure that they know that they are the best person to pick up this torch of their child's education and make sure it's the best for them.
And I was an entrepreneur.
Okay.
I worked at Intel. I was one of the cubicle warriors that was dying slowly every day. Got into entrepreneurship, self-development, got to a place where it's like, oh, we're going to jump. We left Intel, started going out on our own. And then I had a snowboarding accident, hit my head, lost everything except for our house and about $500. And so that something we're talking about later is going to come
will resonate with us in a minute.
Will resonate with us in that. But along when we were doing that, it's like I watched for 27 years how she was like an amazing, excited teacher and how it slowly got taken away from her. How the changes in administration, the changes in what she had to teach, the way new teachers were coming in and the way the schools have to be adapted to the way the new teachers were coming in, not the old teachers weren't able to bring them up. The new teachers with these new ideas were forcing stuff on. And so it changed the whole dynamics. And so through this 27 years, we talked about how we could start our own school system, about what that would look like. And I'm very much also in the woo world. So one of the things that our children are missing in the education system is a knowledge of who they are, of what they really are, and of a little bit of psychology, a little bit of breath work, a little bit of meditation to bring the life back. And so all of that is like taken away. So we started talking about how to bring that into a school system for 27 years. And so part of the reason we got into entrepreneurship is to make enough money so that we could do that as a life goal.
And it led to now vibrant family education, helping families.
But then once I got hurt, that kind of got taken away.
Yeah.
And then recently something happened and I had a message from God. It's like, it's not going to be your school, but you need to get this school started. So we're giving it to the parents. The ideas that we have, the ways that we talk, the experts that we know, we bring those to the parents so the parents can choose what they want to bring to their children's lives and how to grow their family in an entrepreneurial way.
That is awesome. So Kristina, let's start off. Let me have a question for you. What do you see the changes that have happened? You said you've alluded to this. Hey, over 27 years, just things changed dramatically. What has changed, especially in the last few years? We had COVID and everything else. What's changed in the school systems that really is making it difficult for teachers to actually deliver?
Well, a lot of it has to do with class sizes, way too many students in the room, and then the policies that are being implemented. So we are being told exactly what to teach. So far that in my district, you're supposed to be on page 2 of chapter 3 on this day of this week. We are told pretty much exactly how to teach and what to teach. So I couldn't bring my own personal teaching experience in. I was told, use this program, right? And granted, we have to learn and grow. New programs are awesome, but when they constrain you that much, you don't get to use your knowledge that I gathered over 27 years, right? And then policy, we were encouraged to deal with everything at the school. We weren't encouraged to reach out to parents. So if there was an issue, the office would say, oh, we'll take care of it. It's like, no, the parents need to be involved. And they're like, no, we'll take care of it here at school because the parents are too busy with their regular life. It's like, no, that does not land well with me at all. So a lot of those things really crushed me because I want my family and my kids to be the best that they can be. And it has to be teamwork.
Well, and I remember I wasn't the greatest student growing up. So my mom worked at the school because she was a homemaker for the first probably 10 years, 12 years of my life, but she worked at the school. So I couldn't get away with anything because they all knew my mom. But it wasn't something that was handled at the school. It was like, hey, the teacher called me in, my mom was there, or my dad was there. And it was like, all right, we're going to solve this problem. And that helped me because my parents knew what was going on, not, oh, well, they're too busy at that point. That's BS. So let's talk a little bit about homeschooling and that world. One of my old bosses, they homeschooled their, I think, youngest daughter. And I got to see that world from his perspective and their youngest daughter's perspective. And I thought it was really what I would imagine would be not really great. It was probably one of the coolest experiences that I saw as she was growing up. So share a little bit about what homeschooling is. What are some of the myths and the truths?
Can I take this a little bit first?
Sure, go for it.
Okay. So one of the things that's really unique about what we do is it's not really homeschool. It's education at school. It's education at home because we're trying to get away from that school paradigm. Because when you go to school, you're sitting in a desk, you got 8 hours, you have a whole lot of stuff that you need to do. It's very structured. Education at home is a lot more flexible. So again, we learn the children. It can be done in the evening or the morning. It doesn't take 8 hours a day. Some days it might take 2 hours. Some days it might take 3 hours of the reading, the writing, the arithmetic, the core stuff. But then the education at home that we really bring forth, that is we bring experts on how do you properly socialize your kids by taking them to music, by taking them to the pool. And also while you're doing that, the kids are going into places where there are a group of children who all are doing stuff that they want to do. So the likelihood of being bullied and hurt and traumatized in the classrooms or in the hallways between classes by lots of kids who don't want to be there. You're in groups of kids who are working towards a similar goal. And so they get socialized in a cooperative manner instead of in the wild jungle of young, untrained people. So our kids get better socialized. And so there's this growth that happens that's different from school. So we call it education at home. And so we coach, we take the brunt of the reading, the writing, the arithmetic, and then we leave the joyful activities more to the parents.
That's amazing. Well, and this was something that I saw too. Once again, you think of, okay, if they're being educated at home, they don't have this interaction with others and everything else. And one of the things that I saw with John's daughter was there was this incredible community of all these other people that were doing this, and they would get together for events. So John had this beautiful, ginormous house with a big backyard. Well, they would get together like 10 times a year, at least once a month. And it was just an opportunity for them to meet their friends in person and get together and hang out. But I thought the other cool part about it was, and I saw this from my own personal perspective, I didn't really dig school, but I love education. And what I saw from John and his family was, okay, they're learning about the Constitution and how that works and how government works and everything else. Well, they would take a trip with a whole bunch of their friends and go to Washington, and they would go visit all the pieces of it. So it was, you're taking these kind of abstract concepts and then making them real. And it wasn't until I got older and was able to travel, I read tons and I knew about history, but it wasn't until I actually physically went there that I could really make it palatable. And I'm assuming that's really where you're trying to go with this.
Right.
Exactly. So a lot of one of the myths is that it will take too long. We have to do school for 6 hours a day. And what we're trying to help parents understand is that no, like Herb said, 2 to 3 hours of the hard academics, the reading, writing, right? But then the rest of your day, think about it. You get to socialize, you get to teach actual life skills, cooking, cleaning, car, whatever. You get to incorporate that into the whole life. And then you get to take those trips because now you're not tied to a school schedule. You're not tied to a school building. You get to take education on the road and you get to go visit those places and do those things and really make education come alive. And the other thing is that you get to follow the children's passions a lot more. So they're interested in learning. They truly have a love of learning because they're following and learning through what they want to know.
Yeah. And I think that was the same for me. It wasn't until I got to control. I think when I got to college, I was going down a path that I didn't really want to be on. And then I stopped somewhere in there and said, this sucks. I don't want to ever do this for a living. And I went off on a little journey of what is it that I want to be when I grow up. And it was at that point that I really fell in love with learning. I never had that opportunity before. So devil's advocate here, though, what if I'm a really busy parent? I'm a busy entrepreneur. I'm a busy parent. Both parents are working. How do I make this happen?
Okay, that's a me question because we didn't do that.
Okay.
So in our own life, we didn't do that. I worked at Intel. She was a teacher, and we were also entrepreneurs until we got to a point where we thought we could quit.
Sure.
What we did is we tried to shelter our children from the stress that we were under. We didn't talk about our finances. We didn't talk about the ups and downs. They were in school while we were working. And so it was like when we get to that place of freedom, when we get to our freedom day, when we get wealthy, then we'll bring them up, we'll fix it, we'll make a family, we'll do all that later, okay? That was a big mistake because I haven't talked to my son is 31 years old now, I think. I haven't talked to him in about 10 years. I haven't been able to see my granddaughter in 5 or 6 because there was a miss in communication. There was a break in the family. We didn't properly get our family values passed down to our son. And he met a woman who had a different kind of background than we did. And right before he got married, like 2 days before he got married, he changed his last name. He left. Wow. I had issues with that. So family values weren't properly passed down. So part of the school system that we're doing is you don't have time not to do this. And also, if you're an entrepreneur, again, it's so flexible that if you're busy in the morning, then you can schedule your entrepreneur stuff in the morning and work with your kids in the evening. But your kids are going to be able to see you working. They're going to understand what you're doing. They're like, oh, dad is working hard for us. And they get that opportunity to see you working as well as being educated. So your values are there, your work ethic is there. They get to see that you're always going to school. You're doing your classes. You're doing your personal development. You're doing your business development. Put family development in there too, so that the end goal is always, I want freedom for my family. But so many of them are losing their family along the way. We did. And we want other people to not
do that.
So if you can get them out, because school right now is horrible for entrepreneurs as well. Those horrible capitalists. And so that propaganda is also working against you at home. So if you're an entrepreneur and you have children, get your kids out of school. The school is against you. And then you can bring your learning model that you have to do, education, personal development, make that model part of your family and your education and do it yourself instead of shipping them off to somebody else. It's
one of my friends that I interviewed about a month or so, I guess, on the podcast, Jim Shields, he calls it the 18 Summers Project. And he basically, he looked at his life and he was like, I only have 18 summers with my kids. We're going to do everything we possibly can to be in each other's lives for that 18 years because we're never going to get that back.
Right. Yeah. And your friend that homeschooled his daughter and you watched that. Okay, that's not an 18-year thing. It's not when they 18, that relationship is over.
Oh, no.
That family is now tight.
Tighter.
So when your kids go off to college and then they never come home, that's not ever going to happen with her because she's so tight with the family, the holidays, the commitment, the love, that's all there.
Yeah.
And that is so being taken away from us in the school system right now.
And I see it in this world too. Once again, morphing into some of that, the planning around how you get into college and everything else. One of the things that I've seen is like parents being less and less involved in their kids' school. Understanding, I think the pandemic changed a lot because they had abdicated, a lot of parents just abdicated their raising of the kids to, well, let's just let the schools deal with it. And I'm going to go work. And then I'm going to come home and I'm going to ask my kids, how was your day? And they're going to grunt at me and then sit there with their phones and that's it, and never interact with each other.
That's how the television says it should be.
Yeah, exactly. And then all of a sudden they got to see what was going on with these classes. And it's like, what, where are you actually teaching the stuff that they need to know to be successful in life? You're so worried about everything else. And I think we all need to understand other people and all that. That's great. But I don't think it's the school's responsibility to teach social issues and everything else right now. That should be the parent involved, because you need to be able to share your family dynamics and everything else with that.
Exactly.
I'm so glad we got to you because, man, it's coming and you're gripping it. And it's like, wow, this is important.
It's brilliant. Well, guys, let's transition to the fast 5 questions now.
Okay.
Ready?
Okay. Yep.
Ready.
All right. And you can really relate to this first one.
Huh?
You wake up in the morning, business is totally gone. You have $500 in your pocket, laptop, computer, place to live. What are you going to do first?
Try. No, because we've already done that before and we're building back. No, on serious now. Basically, start reaching out. We've learned so much as entrepreneurs how to build community, reach out community, to keep going. And there are, even though we have these messages of, oh, there's just so many awful negative people out there, there are so many good people. You just have to find them. So you can work through your Facebook, you can work through your LinkedIn, you can really connect to people and really make those connections and work again towards it.
And a lot more short and cliche is we're going to stand up and we're going to put one foot in front of the other and we're going to keep doing moving. That. And we're going to try and get somewhere farther ahead.
I've always said that. I started my life as an Army Ranger, and anytime I've had a hard time in business or had struggles, I'm like, all I think about is how did you do a 50-mile ruck march, 1 foot in front of the other until you get done. And once you can break it down to that, okay, what's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next step? That's where you go.
Yep.
All right. Second question. What is the biggest business mistake you've ever made?
Releasing too much control too soon. In the business that failed, we were really reliant heavily on our salesperson, and then it turned out that he was not.
No, let's go back. My biggest, I went snowboarding and I had a really bad fall and I hit my head and I lost my emotional control. I lost my executive making decisions. I became a really bad boss. I started yelling at my employees, which was really strange. And I wasn't able to hold myself together. So we've made a lot of bad decisions, but we're still, again, moving forward. But really the worst had nothing to do with business.
But that's life. Those accidents happen in life. But I think the thing that impresses me both about you guys is, one, you're extraordinarily positive about it. You've had horrible things happen, but you're extraordinarily positive about it. And you just don't have give up in you.
Well, we do, but it doesn't last very long. I have given up so many times and it's like, I'm done.
We have our pity party
anymore.
And something in me like snaps and it's like, no, you can't be done. This thing that you said you can't do, you quit, you stand up and you do it. And it's like, how did I do that? I couldn't do that. And I broke and then I did it. And so
I had the same thing, or like the second year I was in business with my first successful business. It was just a horrible summer. It was first time ever really experiencing a summer and the slowdowns that happen. And I remember my wife and I sitting here and going, you know what? We just have to shut the company down. And something in the back of my head said, you know what? You've got all these people that are relying on you. You can't stop. And that's when I went into lean into it, step-by-step mode. But yeah, just absolutely cool. What is a good book that you'd recommend for our audience?
The Honeymoon Effect by Bruce Lipton.
Nice. That's a new one.
Yeah.
What's the book about?
So Bruce Lipton is one of the premiers in epigenetics.
Okay.
And he talks about how your attitude and your influence and the honeymoon, like when you're on a honeymoon, you feel that sense of love, how things go so much more smoothly. And so he talks about how bringing those attitudes and those feelings intentionally into your life can bring the honeymoon effect, and if you can do that throughout your life, then you can maintain that vibration, and things become easier and move smoother.
I love it. That is awesome. What is a tool that you use in your business every day that you might recommend?
A lot of people seem to use it. I love Calendly because I can put up my calendar link and we don't have to do emails back and forth or text messages back and forth and try to find a perfect time. We can actually look at a schedule and choose and go forward from there. So Calendly has been my savior.
Meditation.
Okay. Awesome.
Both good tools. Daily thing, that because the feelings, the stuff, you have to get back to who you are and the feeling of that calmness. And so every once in a while, you just have to dump the world and meditate.
Yeah, I will say with Calendly especially, and in meditation, but Calendly especially, I fought it for so long because I had an assistant and I would let her book, because I felt like, well, it's more personal if I let her do that. Well, then I would look at my calendar and it would have all these holds in it. So it was completely junked up and I didn't know what I was doing. Adding Calendly, one, made her life easier, and two, made my life so much simpler and my client's life simpler.
Yep.
Last question for you both, and I'd love for you both to answer this. What is your definition of freedom?
Pretty much what I'm doing. I'm able to talk to my parents. I'm able to spend the time growing community, working with people, and I still have time for me to do what I need to do as well. That freedom is it's the American dream, making the best of both worlds. You have your awesome personal stuff, and then you have a business where you can help other people.
That is awesome. Yeah. And it's not work if you do what you love every day. So you get to be the teacher again and less of the administrator. Yes. Herb, how about you?
Well, I go more towards the financial freedom aspect of it, where you get to a point where the money doesn't affect what you actually do. Right. It's time for us to go do that. We go do that. And the money aspect of it doesn't have to be worked into the equation.
Yeah. I'm with you. For me, that's always been the dream that I work towards of, I just want to be able to get up every day and say, I want to do this. I don't have to do it. And I don't have to worry about money when it comes to that. And that I think is the biggest dream out there. So totally agree.
Something happens. We're in an entrepreneur world, a lot of people. So in 2 weeks, somebody says, oh, wow, there's this amazing thing that you have to go to an event. It's a week long. It's like, so not having to worry about money, it's like, okay, this experience is worth the week and the money doesn't come into it. So it's like, I can't do that because I have to take a week off of work and there's this. It's like, no, it's like that experience is worth the time.
And if you're educating at home, your kids can go with you and you don't have to worry about school.
Well, and the other side of the coin there is, okay, maybe this thing is in DC or maybe it's in someplace where, hey, we're doing a history project on the Civil War. There's 5 Civil War battlefields within 10 minutes of this. Okay, well, let's go do that too. And you can combine both. I think that's the beauty of it. And teaching your kids that life is different from, life doesn't have to be drudgery. Life can be wonderful too.
Yep.
Well, guys, if someone wants to get a hold of you or learn more about what you're doing, what's the best place for them to find you?
On Facebook, Kristina Favorite, my main page. It has all of my links there. It lets you know about Vibrant Family Education. It lets you know about Bringing Education Home podcast. Come talk to me. I'm a real person. I will answer DMs. Give me a message.
You're not ChatGPT, huh? Well, guys, thank you so much. We'll include that in the show notes, folks. So make sure that you reach out to them if you're interested in learning about this. I think it's a fascinating topic, and I think the world is changing. We're also getting some advantages from some states of saying, hey, you're the parent, you make the decision where the money goes. So I hope more and more states go that way, and you can actually educate your kids at home. We do these shows every week, twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel wherever this is at, whether you're watching us on YouTube or whether you're listening to us on one of the podcast channels. Make sure, if this resonates with you and you feel like this would be good with somebody else in your life, share this episode with them so that they can actually learn a little bit about this as well, and give us a like if you can. So thanks a lot, and we'll see you guys back here the very next time.
Thank you for having us. It's been a pleasure.